Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Game 6 on Thursday night, and the big question here as the Thunder are up 3-2, will Haliburton play? Will he play in full? So we're going to be taking a look at what happens here if he doesn't play or is limited. Want to show you who steps up here for Indy based on some of the numbers from this season and what we can expect here in Game 6. Coming off a really good Game 5 there, 6 units that we made, get us back over in the playoffs here, up 2 units now in full there as well. Going to look to keep it going. Also going to have the live show 5 p.m. Eastern here on Thursday before the game. Hopefully we'll have a bit more news about Haliburton and some of the minutes and projections and that kind of stuff. So hopefully you'll be able to use that in the live show. If that all sounds good, give this video a like. Let's get right into it. I just want to show you what happens if Haliburton is unavailable to play. I do expect Benedict Mathurin to get the start, move into the shooting guard spot here, and put Nemby at the point. Nembhard should be playing point guard at that point. That's what we saw when Haliburton was off court in Game 5 as well. The way that changes things, not much, right? These matchups pretty much stay the same, as Dort was the one guarding Haliburton. Now he'll just be on Mathurin. They like to keep SGA on Nembhard, somebody that's not really involved in the offense very much. You might see some SGA on Nesmith as well at times, but he's going to be guarding guys off ball is the key here. And then Jalen Williams will continue to play on Nesmith. We'll get some time on Siakam, but they've been putting bigs on Siakam the last couple games as opposed to Jalen Williams, starting with Hartenstein out there and continuing to put like Chet Holmgren on him and the other backup bigs that come in as well. And on the other side of the ball, as far as Indy's defense is concerned, pretty much just everybody guarding the person who's guarding them. So not much to get into there. But I do think Mathurin being in the starting lineup is going to be pretty crucial and something that we can look at here. So what I'm taking you guys through now is what happens when Haliburton has been off the court this season, but I want to know what happens when he's off court and then Siakam and Nembhard are on court, right? Those specific minutes I think are going to be the best way to look at this when you consider that Siakam and Nembhard continue to play into the mid-30s. They're getting the most run of the starters alongside Haliburton. So I think they continue to play that amount, which means we kind of need to consider them being on the floor so much that other guys' stats are going to be a little bit dependent on what happens when those guys are on the floor without Haliburton. Now, Haliburton, I expect him to play in this game, but I don't expect him to be in full, to be honest. I think, if anything, he's a bit more of a decoy. If he's not able to sort of use that quickness to get around guys and to get other guys open on his squad, then he's just not as valuable, right? But he can be a bit of a decoy, as the Oklahoma City Thunder defense has keyed in on him a ton when he's out there. So starting with Benedict Mathurin, these numbers are per 30 minutes, right? And some of these guys are not going to play 30 minutes. Some of them will get up there close to it or more. But Mathurin, I think if there's Haliburton limitations, still looking at about 25 minutes around his projection. Not going to get up into the 30s, but these numbers are very nice with him on the floor without, Haliburton out there with those other guys. 17 points per 30 minutes. Almost 6 boards, about 2 dimes. I would be looking at him on the points and the rebounds. I think at about 15.5, that's the number that we're seeing for both of those combined. That's a pretty good number. And the 10.5 points is still pretty low for him. So I do like where his value is at. The other guy I like with value here is still going to be TJ McConnell. Now, granted, he's going to have really good numbers with Hallie off floor because he always plays with Haliburton off court. Only in this series and a few times in the playoffs has he played with Haliburton on the floor, right? Most of the time he's the sub in there and then takes over the point guard responsibilities with Haliburton out. But either way, I think he's in line for at least 20 minutes now, and he's only been at about 17. His numbers are really nice here per 30. If we get him up to 20 to 25 minutes, these numbers are going to hold pretty true, especially those dimes. Those have to stand out to you a ton. 9.3 per 30 minutes. If he's the guy with the ball in his hands as much as we expect him to be, without Haliburton out there as much, then the assists speak to me a ton here. Moving on to Obi. Obi Toppin at 14, 8, and 5 per 30 minutes with Haliburton off the court when he's playing with Siakam and Nembhard. Some pretty nice numbers here. And he's been getting close to 30 with Haliburton completely healthy and available. So I do think that this is another good moment in time to probably back Obi. He missed the PRA last game, and he was definitely off, right? His shooting was horrible in the first half, but they stuck with him, and there's no longer this worry that if Obi doesn't play incredibly well in the first half, they're going to take him out. It seems like his minutes are pretty safe regardless, especially because Miles Turner's not the best matchup for this series. Looking at Pascal, though, the last 2 guys I'm talking about, Pascal and Nembhard, they actually don't really raise their games much with Haliburton out. And that speaks to the Pacers and their strategy on offense. Their style of play is keep the ball moving, keep the energy high, and don't just, other than Haliburton, it's not just one guy with the ball in his hands, right? These guys are definitely keeping the ball moving a ton. And without Hallie on the floor, it just turns into more of an everybody sort of offense as opposed to one guy dominating. Pascal, 19.5 points, same on the boards and the assists. Now, he is a guy that's going to play 35 plus minutes. He's not going to play 30. So you can give this all a slight uptick from these numbers since these are just per 30-minute numbers. But the key here is he doesn't really go crazy, and these props are pretty high for him. We'll talk about him in a sec on the props when we get into it with props madness. But for the last guy I want to look at is Andrew Nembhard. Same stuff here, man. I mean, the assists go up to 6 per game, but he has not been involved in the offense very much at all this series, and really didn't up the potential assists when Haliburton was out in this last game, the minutes that he was off court. So still not sure how much I trust Nembhard. I think he and Pascal are the two of the guys that we're not getting value on with or without Haliburton in this game. And then before we jump into these player props, just wanted to make sure you knew this is still true, right? Away, the Thunder much worse on offense, 108.5 offensive rating on the road, 121 at home after this last game where they had about the same 120 offensive rating. True shooting down a little bit after last game, but still close to 60% at home, 54.5% on the road. So things dwindled down. The role player is definitely not as good on the road for this team. Something to keep in mind if you're looking to back too many points for the Thunder here in their potential closeout game 6. As we get into these player props, share my screen showing you guys Props Madness, number one tool here for sports betting, player prop research in the NBA and the W. If you want to jump in, use the same platform that I'm using to get the best value around. Use code LYB. That gets you 25% off your first month. You can also use that to get a 7-day free trial. Test it out. See if you like it for yourselves before you get into it. But let's start with Pascal. I mentioned that his stuff is very high, 21.5, not quite even averaging that with Haliburton off the floor, right? If you look at the points at 21.5, we're now paying a premium. He's been at 18.5, 19.5, and been hovering around that number. Now, because he went off for 28 in the last game, looks a lot worse, right? 21.5. Still only taking about 15 shots. The usage rate doesn't get much above 22, 23%, regardless of Haliburton's presence or not. The free throws were good in this last game, but he shot 3 for 6 from 3, had some really, really good shooting percentages in a way that I'm like, look, I can't afford to come back in on the points. If you want the value, I think rebounds, assists are both still pretty good value for him. If you put them together, you can still get 11.5 or plus money. Not very many 10.5s now, just a couple of those books that are holding it. So I think the rebounds and assists are a better look. I think the assists themselves, if you can get 3.5 with Haliburton off court, the potentials have been really standing out to me, right? 9, 8, and then 6 is pretty much his floor for potential assists against this team, including in the regular season when he played against them. Hovering over this shows you obviously the potentials and the total assists there. And in the last game, the 9 potential assists, really good look. So I still think if he's at 9 to 10, like 8 to 9 rather, potential assists, 4 to 5 assists, 5 at plus money if you wanted it, or drink the juice at 3.5. I think that's the better way to play Pascal Siakam than anything else, especially not the points in this one. If you're going to play Haliburton, I mean, you have to assume that he's going to be able to get over these numbers. If you think he's going to go in full, and we'll get to this on the live show tomorrow, then these numbers are beatable, especially on the points more than anything, right? That's where I'd be looking for him. 13.5 is just too low if he even has the use of his right leg, essentially. So I would be looking at an over at home in a must-win game. I think he comes out and plays like 30 to 35 minutes, to be honest. So if you think that he's going to be at that time frame, the over is a better play for him, but I'm honestly just going to stay away from him. Miles Turner is another stay away, but he would be a guy that I'd be going under once again. Not the best series for him. And if Haliburton is not out there, I still think they're going to need even more ball handling, more guys like Obi Toppin, Benedict Mathurin. They're going to rely on those guys to come off the bench and probably take some of these Miles Turner minutes that we've been seeing him get. So I think he's still an under, but this is so low at this point, 19.5 PRA. The points are still low. The rebounds are 4.5 now. He doesn't play better with Haliburton off the floor. He relies on those assisted field goals and running that pick and roll with Haliburton to stay involved in the offense. I mean, if you just look at him on the season without Haliburton, he's going to be one of the few guys that doesn't necessarily just like jump up a ton, right? He's at 6 boards per game without him as opposed to 6.2, and the points are actually at 14.9 as opposed to 15 during the regular season. So I know this all looks green for him, but this is without Haliburton his numbers go down, and he's playing against a team that we know has his number, not a team that he's definitely going to be used as much against, especially once again without his pick and roll partner in Hallie. Aaron Nesmith, similar look in my opinion to the Miles Turner look here, which is I'm staying away. I've been going over on him. The rebounds, you still get some value on 4.5 because of the way he's been playing against this team specifically, but he relies on assisted field goals as well. His stuff comes off spot ups, catch and shoot, and being open from 3 because most of the time Haliburton has caused the defense to sort of collapse on him, and then he gets the kickouts, right? But if Haliburton's not at full strength or the ability to sort of draw in the defense quite as much, I don't like Aaron Nesmith to be able to do his thing because his thing is so reliant upon other guys getting him open. So he's probably going to be a stay away as well. And then this is a guy that like this number is going to keep going up. I think you should hit this pretty soon. And I'm scared to say that because I have not played it yet. So I should get this in before I put the episode fully up. But Benedict Matherin's got to be a person that guys are going to start, bettors, I should say, are going to start turning their attention to once they really get into this. People are probably afraid of what happens with Haliburton in general before they bet on him. But PR's at 14.5. Obviously, without Haliburton, this is incredible numbers. Just be cautious that he's at 34.5 minutes per game without Haliburton this season. And there was a time earlier in the year where he was getting a lot more minutes, right? He was up there in the 30s at times and would get that start and then play 30 without Haliburton. If he does get the start, he's probably looking at close to 30 in this one. 25 to 30 would still be the projection for him. And there's still a world where he doesn't get the minutes. But like 30 minutes. But if he gets 25, I still think we're good for this number, right? Even in the playoffs right now against this team, you can look at him and say head to head in the playoffs right now, really good numbers on the PR still at 16. So even with Haliburton out there, he's gone over. I think we got to put him at a closer to 20, 25 minutes. Like I said, we've been worried about the 14 minutes for him that he's been playing here and there. But last game, just bad shooting. 2 for 11 on the road. We're going to give him a pass on that one. I think we got to go over on Benedict Mathurin as one of the best options here and best value plays. Even like 15 plus points, that kind of thing, looks to be in the cards here for Mathurin in game 6. As you can tell, I like the bench guys for Indy because I think the way that McConnell comes in, keeps the pace high, can do a little bit of what Haliburton does, at least in terms of breaking the defense down off the dribble and then kicking out, right? Which is what we know that they want to do, is create that imbalance on OKC's defense that they're willing to do because OKC loves to double team, and have guys like TJ be quick enough to get through the double team. And then now you've got an imbalanced offense. You've got an advantage, right? With like a 4-on-3 or whatever. So I think TJ is going to be up there at 20 minutes again. He played 22 in this last game. And to be honest, y'all, the points and the assists, they're still only at 15.5 right now. And in the playoffs at home, he's averaging 14 PA per game. If we look at this home stuff, 15.5 is high, but he hasn't played 20 minutes in the playoffs. I don't think, one time he played 21 minutes in that 22-point blowout loss. Other than that, he's playing 15, 16, at most 18 minutes. But in this one, if there is Haliburton's limited like we think he is, we're going to see a bit more TJ McConnell. And I think we got to put him at about 18 to 22 minutes in this game. And that should be good for the 16 PA, honestly. Like, I know this is really high right now, but I showed you his numbers without Hallie on the floor. And if you give him 25 minutes, I mean, he should be good for about 5 to 6 assists. That's probably the best value. If you can only play one right now, you're still getting 4.5 dimes, which seems high. But again, 9 assists per 30 minutes with Haliburton off the floor while he's on court with Nembhard and Siakam. And then finishing off the trend, I think I'm not fading Obi. I told you guys that. I'm not fading Obi because I can't rely on him getting too few minutes to get there, right? In this last game, he was close. He was there with the points, right? The 12 points. It was the other stuff he didn't do quite as well. The rebounds, he had 4, but he had 9 chances. He was down to 22 minutes in this last game. I think he's back up to 25 plus in this next one. And the points rebound, I mean, really the PRA, it's at 16.5 now. Going to go back up to 17.5 for the most part, it looks like, on all these books if you want it. But I wouldn't be fading him still, man. I'd be looking at about 17 to 20 PRA for him in this game. 25 plus minutes, and the points, especially at 10.5, still feel like a really good look for a guy who's going to be involved in the offense with a hobbled Haliburton. Diving into the Thunder props, go ahead and give this video a like if you're getting anything out of what we're doing. Hopefully this is going to help you guys with all y'all's bets here in game 6. But we are going to start off with the man, SGA. And I got to say, like, Jalen Williams is kind of coming for that MVP of the finals right now. If he has a good game in game 6 and SGA doesn't have quite as good of a good game as he does, and they win this series and he kind of closed out the last 2 games to J-Dub, that might be a look for MVP of the series. Just a little futures talk for you. But either way, for SGA in this game, I still think he's good for 30 plus. And I still think 45.5 is just a tad too high on the PRA for him. If you look at this series, last game, what we played was a same game parlay, 30 plus points for him, which is an alt line that's a little bit lower than his core number of 33.5. 30 plus points combined with an under 45. Last game we played 46.5 PRA. Still willing to play 45.5 to the under here for him. I like that bet regardless, to be honest. I mean, this is not something that he's been doing that much. He's at 42 in the playoffs, over in just 8 of 21 playoff games this season at this point. So you don't really like the PRA for him in general. Also holds true with what he did in the regular season. But the points at 30 plus, it's a small margin for sure. But because if he gets 30 plus, right, if he gets more than that, obviously we're in trouble. But I think he's going to stay around in between 30 and 35. I don't know if he's going to get to 34 or not, but I don't feel like paying for that. I just know I like this over. And even the assist back down to the under. I know he got 10 last game. That was on 15 potentials, but that was an outlier. He has not had 15 potential assists very often in the playoffs or in this series at all. So the points, 30 plus still feels right, but under on the assist or under on the PRA, you combine those, you're going to get some really nice odds. I agree J-Dub is in a good place to keep going over on him. The PRA is still at about 33.5, which is what it's been for like the last 3 games as he's been going over that. The rebounds are a better play for me than the assists in general, but if you want to play the full game stuff, great. I think the best value on J-Dub is the quarter 1 props, because last game, 10 minutes in the first quarter, the game before, 11 minutes in the first quarter. This is the first time like all season he's playing double-digit minutes in the first quarter. Look at the playoffs. There's been one other game, maybe 2 other games where he's played double-digit minutes in the first quarter. Every other game other than the last 2, he's playing less than that. Well, now in this game right here in the first quarter, in the last 2, if we can bank on him playing double-digit, then yeah, the quarter 1 points look good here at 5.5. And then the rebounds also, we played that last game in the first quarter. Need him to get 2 for plus money. If he's playing that amount of minutes and we're getting about 3 to 4 minutes in the first quarter that he's playing without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right, where he's the primary guy on offense in every way, shape, or form, ball handler, shooter, whatever you want, this dude is good for the points and the rebounds especially. I'll probably play both of those and then combine them together for a little parlay, because this is just low based on what he's done for the season and in the playoffs as a whole. But now we're in a different spot where I think that the books have not caught up to his increased minutes and usage in the first quarter, and we can take advantage of that still. Last game played the under 1.5 assists for Chet. Got that at about 145, and I think minus 154 is still worth it to just play it by itself. If you were going to play this under and parlay it with something so that you can still get some better odds on this, I would take like 8+ boards. He's been going nuts on the rebounds. 20 rebound chances, 17 over the last 3. And that's because his minutes went up, right? First 2 games of the series, 28 minutes, 24 minutes. Last 3, 35, 37, 34. In part because he's not fouling as much, and because he's come more aggressive. They have a reason to play him, right? He is actually challenging the defense now and bringing it to Miles Turner as opposed to looking scared, which give him a little bit of a break in his first 2 ever NBA Finals games at the age of like 21 or something. I don't even know if he can drink yet. So we'll give him a little bit of the leeway here in the first 2 and believe in these last 3 games a lot more. So like I said, the assist, though, is the preferred play to the under here. In the playoffs as a whole, he's at 1. If you look at assists per game, if you look at the potential assists, he is down to 2.4 as opposed to his season average, which is 2.8. So 2 assists is just not something he's going to do, especially the way that he plays in this offense, which is he's getting the ball in spots to finish the play. He's not really a part of the rotation. He's not running quite as much pick and roll. He's not the roll man very often. He's really just getting the ball off either in the catch and shoot, or because the defense has now sort of paid its attention to someone else and not shifted to him. That's really it. Or he's in the dunker spot, just waiting for the lob. But he's just not in a position to be making plays, going to the rim, looking to pass. That's why he didn't even have a potential assist last game. So still love this under. We'll play it by itself, probably add it to about 8+ boards he's been killing everything on the glass. Caruso is still for 10+ points. I'm still with it. I've been staying away. Like, I just sort of feel like I missed the wagon. Like when you walk up to the roulette wheel late and it's just kind of like, well, you know, Black's been hitting, man, but you want to get on the wagon now? Like, you're kind of late to the party. I don't want to come in late to the party. So if you were going to bet Caruso, I'd be betting over still. The 29 minutes he played last game, his floor has become 27, 28 minutes. He could play as many as 32 or so, as we've seen in this series. So I still think you have to play overs with the way that he's going to be out there. But his involvement in the offense has not been incredible. 8 shots last game, only went 1 for 8, but still would need to go about 5 for 8 or make at least 1 3 to get us to the 10 points that we need for him. And I'm just not feeling it that much. As far as the PRA, 16.5, 17.5 is too high. This dude, if you're at like 13, 14.5 PRA, I can get there with it. But even if you look at him on the season as a whole, in games where he's played at least, let's say 27 minutes, like I said, about his floor, he's still at about 18.5 PRA. It's not like it's like soaring over and that all of a sudden he's getting way more minutes. And so everything's going to be going way up for him. It's just a matter of if he's hitting shots, to be honest, at the end of the day. And if he is, great. But I don't think he's going to have a high enough volume to get us there. So as magical as he's been, if you've been playing over, keep going. I'm just not going to start late on it now. Everybody else is pretty much a stay away. If you're going to go with Lu Dort, you know what it is. He's on the road. It didn't work out here in game 3. Game 4 came right back for us, going under, only taking 2 shots on the points. The threes are the same idea here. I'm not going to go under on 1.5 threes. That's just too low, even for Lu Dort on the road. But again, I'll just point you to, in the playoffs, his stats, whether when he's at home versus when he's away, big difference. Home, 2.8 threes per game. Away, 1.3. So I'd be going under, once again, on Lu, only over twice in the playoffs on the road for 7.5 points, right? So this is still an under for me for Dort, but it's just going to be a stay away because the random, 4 for 8 3 game for him is still possible. I just think there's better ways to spend our money in game 6. All right, y'all, that is all the time I have for you. Definitely want to make sure you jump into the live tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Bring your bets, jump in the comments. We'll go over this stuff together and hopefully have a bit more info about the status of Haliburton. And until I see y'all then, happy betting.